First of all, let's see. Can you guys see me and hear me? I hope so. Let's see if this is working. Thank you very much for being coming here, first of all. And it's practically, we are in 2024. So I hope that your 2023 has gone really well and you're excited and pumped up for a wonderful 2024. One thing I wanted to tell you, I'm going to try to answer, like as always, there's a lot of questions, and I always try to go, try to answer as many as possible, but of course I have limits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to check the chat, try to answer all your questions. But before I do that, I get into the questions, all the wonderful questions. I wanted to make an announcement, and I'm going to post it here. Let's see if you can see it in the chat. Basically, I have written another book. Now, I don't know, maybe some of you know that I have already a book, an ebook, that you can find on my website. You can purchase on my website. But in the last 3 months, I've been working with my team on another ebook that you can download completely for free. It's more than 80 pages, and you can download the entire package, EPUB, PDF, and an audiobook. And it's a 90-minute audiobook. So I think you're going to like that. There's a lot of stuff. It's practically another book that I've written, and it's all for you to read and listen to. The only thing you need to do is to go to the website, to my website, and sign up to the newsletter. And in a few minutes, you will get the package. I will talk about this also in the middle of the session and also at the end as usual. So let me check. Okay, let me go up to the bunch of questions. But before I address the questions in the chat, I wanted to address two very interesting questions I was asked. You cannot see this probably. So a very big light pointing at me there that keeps you from seeing this, but I'm going to read it for you. Marco Butt, I'm going to read these two from Instagram and then the rest from YouTube. Marco asks, I practice 3 languages every day. So I'm learning 3 languages every day. Should I spend more of my time with the language I am best in because it's easier and less exhausting, or should I invest the most of my time into my weakest language because it needs the most work? What are your thoughts on this? Thank you and greetings. Sorry about that. Greetings from Germany. I always say that when it comes to learning 3 languages at the same time, in my case, I'm gonna start learning 4 from the beginning of the year. It's like having an extended family. There's one more member that joins the family, the newborn. And I always think that the newest language is the newborn, and it really needs the most attention. So yes, it's true that the language you speak the best, in which you have the best level, is the easiest to learn or the less exhausting. But I do believe that you should structure things so that you can first tackle the language that needs the most attention, and it also needs the most concentration. That's what I would do. I would order it in terms of what is the language that I know the worst, what is the newest language. I'm going to tackle that first thing in the morning, and then I'm going to do the second one, and I'm going to do the third. That's my answer. Paula Griselli asks me, always from an Instagram. Promise I'm going to get back to you guys. My question is, how can I manage learning a new language with others that I've already known? Because my feeling is that I lose the other languages if I focus my efforts on a new one. I like to learn German, but I'm afraid that my French gets worse. When it comes to learning new languages and maintaining other languages, I always say it's great to reach at least a B2 level in some of the languages that you speak before you start learning other ones. Otherwise, it's a mess. It's always a mess to try to learn multiple languages at once if you don't have a level where you are at the very least a language learner. I've already specified this. Language user. Language user means that you can already use the language. So let's say you've reached a B2 level. By the way, I have my computer here. I have my iPad here, so I can see. So I can keep I have the top of the the first comment, And then I have the last comments here, because otherwise it's gonna be it's gonna be a mess to follow everything. So I'm gonna try my best. Okay, so now back to you guys. Christian asks, that's the very first comment on top. I'm gonna try to go through all the questions one by one, the ones that I deem the most relevant. How can I acquire more vocabulary when I have a B1 level in English? Well, my answer is very simple. Make sure that you consume on a daily basis content that is interesting to you, that is comprehensible, that you can create, for example, bilingual texts, or you can use vocabulary online dictionaries in order to dissect and understand the text, or the transcription of the podcast, or the subtitles, or whatever you're consuming into your own native language, so you can understand it better, you make it comprehensible, and then it has to be slightly challenging. This one is particularly important when it comes to vocabulary. And slightly challenging, a piece of content that is slightly challenging basically means a piece of content that has a number of words that you do not know. But the tricky thing is that if there are too many words that you don't know, then it becomes discouraging. So you have to learn to find yourself in the so-called Goldilocks zone, where something is not too difficult, it's not too easy, and maybe for each interesting piece of content and comprehensible piece of content that you consume, you have a number of words that you don't know and that you want to learn. This is my simple suggestion. Forget about lists of words, forget about dictionary, just consume content that is interesting for you. YouTube videos, podcasts that have transcriptions, so transcriptions and subtitles, and then use paper if you can, underline stuff that you like. Let me see here. Also to my left, there's a lot of questions coming. So I'm going to try to, beat my personal record and reply to all of them. It's not going to happen, but it doesn't matter. Dude asks, what is the deliberate practice in speaking? I think the dude has been asking this question over the last 5 or 6 days, because I've seen it everywhere. So dude, we're finally here. I can answer the question. And the answer is, there's two forms, let's say, to simplify, there's two forms of let's say, practicing speaking in this particular context. You have deliberate practice and you have simple practice. Simple practice is just talking for the sake of talking, right? You're talking to a friend, you're sitting, you're drinking a beer, and you're talking about whatever in your target language. Deliberate practice in speaking means that you sit down with a very specific purpose. To give you a very concrete example, it means, for example, that you're sitting down and you're talking to a tutor that you hired, or maybe a friend, and that friend is listening to you. You have prepared the lesson in advance. You're talking about a specific topic, and maybe you've prepared some words, some vocabulary within that topic, and that friend or that tutor is going to give you some corrections, and then you record the conversation, you will listen to it again, and then you learn from that. So there's two different forms of practice. The one is, I call it simple because it's simple to do. You just talk to a friend. Well, the other one is more complex, and it requires more steps, and it requires more energy, concentration, and planning, but it's much more effective. And I always say you have to mix, you have to balance the two, because if you just engage in simple practice, then it's okay, but you're not going to make a lot of progress. But if you just engage in deliberate practice, then you're going to burn out. So you need a little bit of both. So Farouk asks, which one is more important, speaking immediately or more listening? And when would you know if one is ready to speak? One love from Nigeria. I love your content. Thank you, Farouk. I would just say, if you want to talk, if you want to speak, just talk. But I would always, like in the last 10 years especially, I moved more towards input, listening and reading, listening or reading as much as you can before you talk. Depending on the language, if a language is relatively close to mine, maybe the decision of speaking, I can start speaking after 3-6 months or something like that. But if it's a more distant language, it takes more time. I always make sure that I get a lot of input, massive input, before speaking. So that's my suggestion. But if you want to talk, why not? Let me go now to the bottom of the list to see what's happening right now. I love you, Luca. Calle Osorio says, thank you. José Granados, magnifique, fantastique, grandioso, Luca, merci. Let me see here, a couple of questions. Hi, Zenilda Otaka says hi. What's your best advice for utilizing subtitles? I like the verb utilizing. Well, my best advice is I always put on subtitles. Whether I watch a movie or a YouTube video in English, Italian, Spanish, German, whatever, I always use subtitles. If I'm watching the video, and especially movies, because I think that subtitles help you see and listen at the same time. The more channels you use, the best. Then, of course, you can retort that if you look at subtitles, you're not going to enjoy the movie, etc., etc. But if watching a movie is a learning experience for you, I always suggest that you use subtitles. You can use subtitles in English. Well, let's say you're learning French, right? And you're a native English speaker. Then you can use subtitles in French, or you can use subtitles in English, or you can use both. You can use a combination of both when you have, for example, Language Reactor. I've made a video about that, where you can actually, you have a double script. So you can see the subtitles in both languages. The problem is that you have to learn how to watch a movie and to concentrate on the subtitles and extract the information. That is training, and the more you do it, the better. There's much more to say about subtitles, whether to use subtitles in your target language, in your native language, depending on your level. But for now, I hope that this answers your question. So let me see. There's a lot of questions coming. Let me see. Luca, pensi che ci sia una strada per imparare l'inglese parlato alternativa alla videochiamata con un mentore o viaggio all'estero? So this is a question in Italian that I'm going to translate for you guys. If you don't speak Italian, basically means, Luca, do you think that there's an alternative way to learn the spoken English that is alternative to, rather than talking to a tutor or to go abroad? Well, I would say that talking to someone is important if you want to speak. It's not just a matter of practicing the language; it's also a matter of getting, confident in using the language. So I think that whether it's a tutor, a mentor, someone you pay, someone you don't pay, a friend, a tandem, whatever, I think you have to talk to people. Because if you don't talk to people, then it's not just a matter of lack of practice, it's a matter of lack of confidence. And for me, fluency is a measure of confidence. As I said in the last video I made, which is, are you a language user or a language learner? So let me go up now. I'm going to go old messages and new messages at the same time. Michael asks, Spanish verbs and their conjugations are overwhelming. What is the best way to learn them? Take a single verb and learn all its forms? Nope. Or learn several verbs in a limited number of forms and then add. Michael, the answer, the simple answer is forget about all that. This is a paradigm coming, the school paradigm. This is this formamentis, this way of thinking comes from school. Forget about even using ChatGPT. You don't want to waste your time doing that. Have you ever seen a child learning their own native language by using tables, conjugations? Maybe they've learned about conjugations in school after 5 years of acquiring the language. So kids first acquire, then they learn about the language, while we adults or adults tend to do exactly the opposite. That's not how it works. So you don't want to do that. You just want to, again, might sound a little bit boring, but that's the way it works. Listen and read. This is the fastest, best way to learn a language is to consume interesting content. So you can, for example, let's say if you have a B2, B1 level, or you have an A2 level, consume content that is at that level containing verbs. The more verbs you see, the more your brain is going to pick up patterns. And yes, of course, you might still make mistakes, but it doesn't matter. You don't want to miss the forest for the trees, as they say. And this is a way of missing the forest for the trees, focusing on like conjugations. And most of these conjugations, like I, you, be, well, you will not use half of them. We always tend to use I or we or you. So I would not go that route. I would consume a lot of content. That content will contain verbs, I assure you. And the more verbs you see, the more forms and context, the more verbs in context you see, the more your brain is going to pick up patterns. How long has it taken you? Agatha Christie. I love Agatha Christie. I got a lot of Agatha Christie somewhere here. So how long is taking you from zero to C2 level learning French? Oh, now you know the the chat is going crazy. French. Well, the truth is, it's really difficult to answer this question because I've learned in school for 10 years, and then I met my ex French girlfriend. I lived in France. I attended a conference interpreting in school. I think I reached a native like level after 3 years of living basically in France and interacting with people and the language all the time. So it's really difficult to answer because I started learning French when I was 10, but then after school I didn't do much for years, and then I met my ex-girlfriend. So it took a long time. But I think the real difference, the real breakthrough or watershed or whatever you want to call it, is when in 2008, beautiful Prague, a beautiful Agnes, my ex-girlfriend, I met her and I started speaking French from that moment. And that propelled me through, just like I was completely immersed in the French world. Literature, my ex-girlfriend's parents loved literature, loved movies. So I was, just in a household where we talked about the French language all the time, in French, with debates and, just uh, when we were eating at dinner, and it was amazing. Anyway, so let me see. Saza asks, Luca, what is your opinion about holistic approach to the language learning? About the I don't know what you mean by holistic approach. When I talk about holistic, it means that I normally, when I talk about holistic, I mean that you have to learn all the parts of language learning. And that is important because this way you learn naturally, as kids do. If you learn separately grammar, vocabulary, etc., then that leads to disaster. So if you mean that holistic, you mean like a general global approach, as tackling all the moving parts of a foreign language, then the answer is yes. Let me see. Salut, j'aime ta barbe. Merci. Someone said they love my beard. My beard is getting white, but I just turned 43. Just, I'm getting old. So, what have you changed? What have you changed your mind on regarding language learning in the last 5 years? This is Alejandro Castrero. So what is the thing that, for which I guess you wanted to say you changed your mind regarding language learning in the last 5 years? I haven't so much as changed my philosophy. I would say that the one thing in which I believe even more firmly than before, is the importance of input, massive input for your brain to pick up patterns. This is more and more important. There's a difference between acquiring a language and learning a language. It might seem the same, but it's not the same. Acquiring, means to learn a language in a natural way by getting a lot of input, and your brain picks up patterns, whether you're using language learning materials or you're surrounded by the environment, or both, like kids do, for example. While learning is sitting down and try to figure things out by using tables, by using explanations, etc. I think a combination of both is important. We cannot acquire language like children do. Some people say it's a famous input method. You just get input, and then magically you're going to be speaking. That's true up to a certain point. I lean towards more like an approach where you have to balance the capacity of using the knowledge and that we have of the world and of our own native language in order to dissect another language and then acquire it. So first learn how it works, and then you acquire it later. It's called a weak interface hypothesis. If you guys are interested, I talked about that numerous times. This is my stand. And there's a lot of literature talking about the different models of acquiring a language. I'm a proponent. Well, I'm not the proponent, but when I look at all these theories, this is the one that for which, let's say, it's a model that reflects what I do and how I learn languages and how I train people to learn languages at my school. Anyway, let's go back here. Let's see. Hey, my New Year resolution is to learn Spanish from scratch. I would like to reach B1. How long do you think it will take me? I already speak English as a foreign language. Anne. I don't think you should. Honestly, I don't think that's a. I mean, it's a legitimate question, but you're already thinking and worrying about how long it's going to take you. So this is a mentality of the goal, right? If you have a goal, then you're always constantly falling short of the goal every day, right? Think about that. You have a goal, maybe it's going to happen in 6 months. Every day you think, oh, when is this going to happen? I had a student when I was giving coaching lessons who did that all the time. He was asking me, when am I going to get fluent? When am I going to get fluent? When am I going to get fluent? Sounded like Shrek, Shrek, when he goes like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? When Shrek and Fiona go too far, far away. So I think you should shift the perspective, and instead of asking this question, you should ask yourself this critical question: what can I do every day in order to learn Spanish for 30 or 45 minutes? This is a more critical question, because when you shift from goal to habits and system, you win every day. Every day when you do something, you tell yourself, yes, I've done it. Yeah, right? So you have a habit, then you do it, and then you win every day, and this creates a reward. So instead of thinking, what's my goal? Yes, you can ask yourself this if you want. You can have a goal like, I want to be fluent. I want to be speaking Spanish at B1 level in, say, a year, or in 6 months, let's say, or 9 months. But even if you have that, if you state that goal, if you write it down, I think the most important question then is transform that goal into a habit. Ask yourself, what can I do every day to learn Spanish? It's a much more relevant question. So let me see here. There's a lot of questions here. Frank Muñoz asks, hola Luca, ¿qué estrategia recomiendas para mejorar y aumentar el vocabulario? Saludos desde Panamá. Frank basically asks, what can I do to acquire vocabulary? I think Frank already replied to that question at the beginning of the live show, the Ask Luca Anything live show. And again, very succinctly, very briefly, you have to consume a lot of content. For the details, you can just watch basically the recording of this a little bit later. Once it's online, it's available online. So let me see how to learn English with movies. Do I have to stop every time to look up words on Google? Can I turn a movie comprehensible that is too high of my level? Junino asks. For Pete's sake, do not stop every time to look up words. That's terrible. You don't want to do that. You can use Language Reactor. It's an app where, for example, you can watch Netflix and you can download literally the bilingual transcript of the entire movie. If you want, you can read it before you watch the movie. But if you watch a movie and you stop every time to look up a word, it completely disrupts the joy of watching that movie. So maybe you can watch the movie, then you can download this bilingual transcript, and then you can watch it again multiple times, rather than stopping every time. This is a big killer, let's say. Okay, let me go up again here. Again, if I guys skip some of the questions, I'm sorry, but there are a lot of them. Socrates asks, vorrei sapere se ti piace il calcio, qual è la tua squadra preferita? I want to know if you like soccer, football, well, soccer, and what is your favorite team? AS Roma. So yes, I do like football, soccer, better said, but I don't watch them that often. I just watch the big shows, international, like Champions League, or with my friends. But in general, I don't watch sports that much, soccer. It really depends, but in general, not that much. Luca, I'm really glad you're here. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for the kind words. Jonathan Kiroth, this rings a bell, this name. Do you think that learning talks by heart is a good strategy to learn vocabulary or improve one's fluency in another language? No, I don't think that learning anything by heart is a good strategy. I would rather say maybe you can watch what you can do. One thing that I would suggest is maybe watch stuff on YouTube. You can let's say you watch a YouTube video for 5 minutes of someone talking, and then maybe you can stop it and you try to summarize what the guy or the girl, whatever content, what was said during the video, rather than learning things by heart. It depends on what you want to do. Again, the question is, would you want to improve your speaking? Well, then I highly recommend that you summarize. You can maybe watch it or listen to the movie and then jot down some keywords and then use those keywords to summarize. So in front of you, you have the piece of paper like this one that I have here. You jotted down some keywords, and then by using those keywords, you can summarize the content. That's a much better exercise in terms of developing your language skills, so to speak. So Francesco, I've been learning Russian for 3 years. I have a B2-like level. I want to speak fluently, but I don't know how. I've been watching videos with subtitles for 3 years, translating the unknown words. What to do? Well, my suggestion, Francesco, is just to find someone to talk to and speak as much as you can in real life, or you can, have a conversation on one of these numerous platforms that we have nowadays and talk. The more you talk, the better you become. That's what I would say. Augustin Barrios, Luca, I'm from Argentina. Greetings, Luca, you're from Argentina, living currently in Chieti, Italy. I always watch your videos. And then he says, GOAT. Thank you. Thank you, Augustin. Thank you for the kind words. Let me see here. Christian David Morales Plaza, or Cristian, no sé. Luca, Happy New Year in advance. Happy New Year back to you and to all of you wonderful people. I speak Portuguese and English well. However, I'm a little bit shy when I speak in public in another language. What's your advice to improve that? Greetings from Colombia. I've talked about this before. Speaking a foreign language is kind of, I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's complicated. It's just that if you've never done it before, then you're shy about it. And the more you do it, the less shy, the more confident you become. You have to realize that when you speak a foreign language for the first time, you're combining the new with the old. You're going through situations you've gone through multiple times in your life, like going to the supermarket, buying a ticket, a train ticket, or whatever, but now you have to do it in another language. So in a way, it's an old experience that you have to go through, let's say you have to live an experience through a different lens. And in my case, I know that this sounds a little bit simplistic and simple, but you have to live these experiences if you want to become confident. Speaking of language fluently is not just a matter of how many words you know or how well you know grammar or how well you pronounce this language. It's mostly about the experiences that you live. So if you're shy, if you tell yourself you're shy, the one thing that can really help you is to go out there and use the language in real life, and you're going to see shyness is going to melt like snow. The more you do it, the better. Easier said than done, but this is what I suggest. So let me see here. There's a bunch of other questions. I'm going to use my iPad. I'm moving from iPad to my computer. Let's see. Florian asks a very interesting question. Do you learn a new language from English as a starting language or from Italian? Normally, when I started learning a foreign language, I use the bidirectional translation. So I use as a language of reference, as my own L1, as I call it, my Italian, which is my native language. But if I find a resource that is just in English, just an example of that, let me see if I can find it here. You cannot see it, guys, but here's the entire collection of Asimil. So just to give an example here, let me find another one. So when I started learning Hungarian, this is what I found. It's called Hungarian with Ease. It was just in English. I can show you here. This is, what I forget about the mess here. This is about all the stuff that I use in order to dissect a text phonetically. You can find all this information in my course, Bidirectional Translation, for anybody who is interested. It's always in my school. It's lucalamperedo.com. But the main point here is that this is Hungarian English. I could not find anything else, so I used English, but I used the content was in English, but I used Italian. This one, I used Italian to apply the bidirectional translation. This is Norwegisch ohne Mühe. This is like Norwegian. I've never used it, but that's what I found back in the day. It's in German, so I would have used German just because it was the only language that was available, but I would have used Italian when it comes to writing, translating back and forth. That's my answer. David, what is your opinion of AI chatbots like ChatGPT for speaking practice? I was talking about this with my colleague Luca, another Luca, and the answer is I don't have an opinion just as yet because I have never practiced it. I've never practiced talking to a bot. But I will tell you more when I try this. But the reality is, it could be useful. I don't like chatting. I think it's a waste of time. But speaking could be more interesting. But I think it's going to be very effective. Maybe in 2, 3, 4 years. Maybe in 1 year because technology goes advances very fast. But as of now, I don't have an opinion because I've never tried it. Osvaldo Caminos, when and where would be the next Polyglot World event? It's going to be in Prague. Let me see here if I can. Polyglots Gathering 2024. Let me share this with you. There you go. So it should be here. I don't know if you can see it, but that's the next one. It's going to be in Prague in May, and it's going to be interesting. And then there's going to be a Polyglot conference as well, I think in October or something like that, but they haven't decided yet when this is going to happen. So, Luis Alfonso, ¿es posible aprender 4 idiomas a la vez sin morir en el intento? Is it possible to learn 4 languages at the same time without dying? It's going to be difficult. That's what I'm going to try to do this year. But we'll see. I was just drafting my language learning plan for 2024, and I just realized that doing this every day is going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be an amazing, very intensive year for me because I have a lot of projects. So we'll see, but I'm for sure, as I said before, the newborn, I'm going to take care of the newborn, the new language, more than anything, for the first 3 months of the year, and then we'll see. It's going to be difficult anyway, and I consider myself a professional, language professional, because this is my job, but don't do this at home. I would say 4 languages is a lot unless you have a lot of time. That's what I would say. So maybe 2, but I always recommend 1 at a time. That's the best choice. So let me see. Bodog, do you think the artificial intelligence will change how we learn languages? Have you tried any of the AI tools? I think I answered this before, the second part of the question. And as far as change how we learn languages, fundamentally no, but the strategy is not fundamentally going to change, but the tactics are going to change. So yes and no, I would say. It's a very long topic, but we'll see more in the next months because ChatGPT and all this stuff is advancing very fast. So ne vedremo delle belle, we'd say in Italian. So let's see. What if I can't find a native speaker to practice with? What program would you recommend? You can always find a native speaker to practice with if you want. Globus Siep, I think that's her name. So it's difficult to find a native speaker to talk to in real life. That's possible if you live in Australia or if you live in America, if you live in a place where these native speakers are not available, but you can always find someone online if you want to. So Preply, for example, italki is another one. These are platforms where we can find a lot of people. Just these 2, but you have Cambly as well. So if there's a will, there's a way. As I say, if you want to practice this language, you will find someone to talk to, and that's my recommendation. Can't find someone in real life, find someone online to talk to, because the best way to speak is just to speak, especially with someone, not just to yourself. So let me see. This already replied. Very excited to be here. Alejandro Flores, following you ever since your first multilingual video. Greetings from Bogota, Colombia. Thank you very much. Saludos desde Chieti. Chieti is a nice town, but I've never been there. Where can we find bilingual texts except Asimo? That's a good question, Bastien Clément, Bastien. Je pense que t'es français, je suis pas sûr. The answer is I'm not 100% sure in the sense that it depends on what kind of material you're looking for. If you're looking for materials for beginners, that's one thing. If you're looking for materials in general for, I don't know, say A2, B1, you can craft them yourself. You can create them yourself. You can take any transcript. Nowadays, the amazing thing is that with AI and the tools that we have, you can do anything you want. You can take a YouTube video without subtitles. You can create your own transcription. You can take that transcription and translate it with Google Translate. If you want to, well, just to name one, DeepL, it's another one very powerful. You can use interlinear, like there's another tool that I use in order to create interlinear text, one in a target language, one in my native language. I have a video that describes how to do that. So you can do anything when it comes to creating your own bilingual texts. And as for beginners, like language learning material for beginners that have bilingual text, I know Asimo, I know a couple of others, but in general, I use Asimo as a reference. Again, if you want, you can always create your own bilingual text. Talking about ChatGPT can create tables, bilingual tables, just saying. So, Frank Munoz already, okay, I already read this question about learning vocabulary. I'm going through the old questions again. What are the colorful books on your shelves behind you, please? Short stories in different languages? I'm not sure what you're talking about, but if you're talking about these, this is geopolitics. So I organize things like this is like for, if you guys want, I can do this one live, maybe a YouTube video where I'm going to show you the different, books that I have in the library. This is fantasy, Terry Brooks. I don't know if you ever heard of Terry Brooks. Then you have, Stephen King, and you have Bill Bryson here, J.R. Tolkien. Then we have a lot of stuff. Here, there's a lot of Stephen King as well. I have this book. I bought this book in 3,000 languages. You can see this. This is it in Russian, and I have it in 10 other languages. Some people have Harry Potter. I have it. And then I have recently my Vietnamese friend has bought these. I'm really interested in learning Vietnamese. So he brought these as my birthday gift. That was very interesting. If you guys are interested, we can do a special show just for the library, and I can go through the library because I have hundreds of books. This is just now here, but I have hundreds of books everywhere. You should see. It's even too much. And by the way, to answer your question, if talking about this specifically, this is Limes. It's called Limes. It's a geopolitics. It's called Limes. You can see here. This is geopolitics. I'm really passionate about geopolitics, and so I love this. This is an Italian magazine that comes out every month, and I basically read all of them. So let me go down here. Luca, ¿qué nivel en el idioma húngaro has llegado? Me imagino. Quiero aprender vietnamita también. He's asking me what language I have in Hungarian. I would say a solid B1. Depending, B1, B2. I can have free conversations, and I was recently in October in Budapest, and I had a great time, especially when a taxi drivers at the beginning. This guy didn't speak a word of Italian. A word of English. I had to explain I wanted a receipt for my company. And so I was very proud that I did that because it was very technical for some technical things. And then on my way to the airport back to Rome, I talked for 30 minutes, 45 minutes just in Hungarian about pretty much everything with another taxi driver who's really nice. And when you get into the flow and you focus more on communication rather than, thinking whether you made a mistake or not, and thinking about whether you conjugated that verb or that verb correctly, everything turns into magic, so to speak. So we very often underestimate how good our language skills actually are sometimes, because we tend to focus more on whether we're performing well or not, and that keeps us from expressing ourselves to the best of our possibilities. So Taoist asks in Spanish, I'm going to translate directly, if I can do a video about active versus passive reading. By the way, I wanted to tell you before I answer this question, actually the answer is yes, I will make this video. I always use these wonderful questions that you ask me to create new ideas for a new video. So keep asking, because even if I don't reply to all of them, then I'm going to review all of the questions, and I'm just going to go, oh, this is a very interesting thing. This is a very interesting thing that I can talk about, etc. So this active versus passive reading, or intensive versus extensive. I have already a video about that, actually, to tell you the truth. I have one video about intensive reading, one video about extensive reading, and that article that I wrote, the relative article, is the most popular article on my blog. So if you write intensive versus extensive reading on Google, Luca Lampariello, you will find the article, and you will find also the corresponding videos if you want to go deeper into this wonderful subject. So let me see. Have you ever, Fabio Pernia asks, ¿te has aburrido de seguir aprendiendo un idioma? Or do you get tired of language learning, basically? Suele pasarme esto con el inglés. A veces detesto aprender nuevas cosas y lo que realmente disfruto es de hablarlo y hacerme entender. So he's saying basically this happens to me with English. I really like speaking it, but I don't like learning new things, like, or maybe I guess you mean reading or listening to stuff. The answer is no. I have never gotten bored of language learning. I would do this forever, but I would like to do other things. It's not just language learning. I have other things that I do in my normal life, and I don't talk about it. I'm really passionate about astronomy, for example, astronomy, geopolitics, history, and I do a bunch of other things. So language learning is an important part of my life, but it's not the only one. It's one of the many interests that I have. But in general, no, I don't get bored because I use the language to do something meaningful. So to me, anything that you do, when you learn a language, you explore another world, and I think it's cool. It's cool. Can you find something cooler than learning new stuff? I don't. So I never get bored of learning stuff. I can get frustrated, but not bored. I can get frustrated if sometimes, for example, with Japanese, I found it frustrating at the beginning because I couldn't understand. It was too difficult. I couldn't speak, or when I used to speak with my tutor, it was a mess. My brain is fried every time I try to express myself. I just try to say one simple thing in Japanese because I was using the wrong approach. So frustration, yes, but boredom, nope. So let me see. So Emily asks in French. Salut Lucas, j'ai commencé la formation BDT en étant débutant. Est-ce que l'on peut utiliser la méthode avec des romans? Des romans? Livres. Ou faut-il avoir les explications de grammaire? So someone is saying, Emmy, she's asking in French. She started the bidirectional translation course, which one of the courses that we have for beginners, and she asks if she can use the method with basically novels, with books. And then she asks, or should I have grammar explanations? My answer is that you should use the bidirectional translation with simple, short dialogues for beginners. So you can use the bidirectional translation in different ways, but I would not recommend it. I would not recommend using books in order to do this bidirectional translation. The way I use it, this form of the bidirectional translation is used only for beginners, and you said you are a beginner, to possibly content like this. So just to give an example, let's say you start learning, I don't know, Hungarian, just one random example, and as you can see here, this is very, very short. So you have, you have here, you see how short these dialogues are. There's just 8 lines. So you should use the bidirectional translation just with very short texts, because the bidirectional translation is taxing. It's not easy, and it requires a lot of concentration. If you use a novel or a book for which you don't even have grammar explanations, good luck with that. So stick to simple language learning material for beginners when it comes to applying la BDT, or the bidirectional translation method. And thank you for signing up to to our school. One more, as I promised, for those who've come just now, the announcement is that we have I have with my team crafted a brand new ebook, and we're offering it. Just sign up to the newsletter, and you will get immediately after a few minutes, you will get an email where you can download the ebook that comes in PDF format, EPUB if you just want to use Kindle or any other device, maybe your phone or iPhone, and an audiobook. It's 90 minutes long, where I talk and I basically read the entire book. So you can read it anywhere you want with any device. You can read and listen to it, or you can just listen to it completely free. So this is a gift that we wanted to give to, if you subscribe to the school, or the Smart Language Learning School, we're sending you this gift Anyway, and to those who are signing up to the newsletter these days. So let's go back to the questions. Let me see. Did you use methods by Steve Kaufman? Steve Kaufman, for those who don't know, is a very famous polyglot, a fantastic guy. We've met a couple of times at these, language learning events. And yes, I have used. Let me just show you here. While I'm at it, while I'm here. So this is an example. This is link or LinkU. This is a text that I created. So I just got the relevant stuff from his website, and then I, as you can see here, this is Chinese. I created, this is pinyin, so it's a transliteration of the Chinese characters, and then I have the translation. And so I didn't use so much the methods, but rather his website. You can see here, this I did 15 years ago. And this is back in the day when I didn't have, you can see here maybe, back in the day when I didn't have translation tools like we do now. And basically what I did is painstakingly, let me give an example. Wow, it's been a long time. I know this is madness. You probably can see this. But what I did is basically I listened to the stuff and I was looking, I was painstakingly looking up every single, well, not character, but words and vocabulary. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. I did it for a year and a half. And I had gotten very good at Chinese and speaking Chinese, and then I dropped it. But yes, so to answer your question, Steve Kaufman has a wonderful website, which is called LinkU. They offer more and more languages. And I subscribe to his philosophy of massive input, and you can find a lot of interesting content on his website. So, Andrew Colette, ci puoi dire qualcosa in italiano? Ti posso dire qualcosa in italiano, ma poi non capisce nessun altro. I can say something in Italian, but then the others are going to get lost. If you guys want to know, actually, it's not if you guys want, we will do this. There's a live show that I'm going to do with a friend. So stay tuned because it's going to be fun. And we're going to do some stuff. For all those who are interested in Italian, we're just going to be speaking Italian for an hour or an hour and a half. So let me see. Let me see if there's some other interesting question. What do you think about just watching movies of different levels without studying the language? Could I become fluent in this way or not? It would be more pleasant. Junino asks. That's an excellent question. My answer is yes, you can, but if the language is very distant from your own language, then it's going to be tough. An example, there's a guy who watched, I don't remember the name, he was a YouTuber. I don't even know if he's got a YouTube content, sorry, if he's got a YouTube channel right now. But what he did is he watched Chinese TV for 10,000 hours. At the end, he could understand just a few words. And the reason why is that that's not comprehensible content. In order to understand, you have to go through comprehensible content. So that's one thing. The second thing is that if the language you're learning is very close to your own native language, then watching television could be a good solution because you're going to understand more and more. Say if you want to learn Italian and if you're a native Portuguese speaker, then that could be a way to go because since the two languages are very close, you don't need so many grammar explanations. But the more distant the languages, the more grammar explanations you need in order to dissect and understand the points that you will not figure out yourself just by comparing the structure of each sentence. So, so that's the answer. So if you want to go and try, if you're learning a language that is not that distant to your own native language or any other language you have under your belt, just give it a try. But normally I would rather spend 3 to 6 months doing something with these kind of materials that I have here, that I've shown you here, in order to understand how the language works. Then you can jump in the more authentic content and fun, like watching movies. But you need a base as an adult. You need to understand how the language works. If you just try to use authentic content for the sake of consuming content that is cool, then you're not going to learn much. You're going to get lost and you're going to get frustrated. You don't want that to happen. So let me see. Rogério Leandro asks, você gosta de filmes em múltiplas línguas com Bastardos e Inglourious Basterds? Tem recomendações? So he's asking if I like languages where actors speak in multiple languages. Inglourious Basterds is a fantastic movie. I watched it multiple times, and the answer is yes. As for other recommendations, nothing comes to mind, but I'm pretty sure if you write on Google or on ChatGPT, give me a list of movies where people speak in multiple languages, ChatGPT and or Google, they're gonna spout a lot of stuff. Guilherme Barros, you've taken multiple proficiency tests. Would you recommend them for those wishing to improve the language skills? My answer is yes. I would recommend taking tests. And if it's not, a lot of my students, a lot of students at the academy have taken tests, and they've come to the community. They said, we've managed to pass this test and this test. We're very proud. Some people did not pass the tests, but even if you don't pass a test, right, you have learned something. It's also, we're always, very attached to results, but we're rarely attached to the process. And the process, whenever you take a test, you learn something, right? I remember my own frustration in school when I was like doing this engineering at university, and for example, I flunked a couple of times a test. I have all the engineering books down there. And my father just told me, look, you've learned something, right? Even if you flunk a test, you've learned. That's the process. You have to be process attached, not goal attached. So my answer is yes. If you want to, let's say if you have a B1 and you want to improve, well, it's great to have a test, because that test is going to force you to do stuff you would not normally do by yourself. That's the tricky part. When you reach the so-called upper echelons of language learning, when you're getting towards a B2, then reaching a C1 still needs some discipline and some organization and planning. And most people, they go like, okay, I already speak a language at a B2 level. I can already communicate. I'm functional in the language. Why would I just embark upon a quest where I have to sweat, and through toil and sweat, I have to try to improve my skills? And most people they say, well, they're very happy with the level they have. And that's where having language proficiency tests can really make a difference. I remember I had a lot of fun when I did these, and they pushed me to do stuff. I remember, especially for the German one, I was a little bit worried. It was in 2010, I think it was like 13 or 14 years ago. And I talked to Richard Simcut, the world famed polyglot. And I remember Richard was kind enough to tell me, Lucino, you have to pass the test. So I'll help you with that. And we hopped on a call, and we were speaking German every single day for like 2 or 3 months. So that in and of itself, the fact that I had a proficiency test looming right there, just like in a few months, just forced me to write a journal in German, to speak with Richard every day, to write formal letters. And so I think proficiency tests can really make a difference. I've made a video about that. If you write tests, are tests good for language learning or something like that? Luca Lampariello on YouTube, the magical, the keywords, you will find that video. So my answer is yes. Frank Muñoz asks, ¿consideras que el inglés en el mundo de los negocios aún tiene un dominio por encima de los demás idiomas? So Frank asks if English is still the most important language when it comes to the business world. And the answer would be resounding yes. You have to learn English. You have to speak English well in this world if you want to function if you want to function in this world. Otherwise, you're cut from a lot of stuff, not just business. Avid language learning. Luca, do you think being an English speaker makes it harder to learn a foreign language? What are your thoughts? I've made an entire video about that, and you can find it as like, I don't remember the exact title, but it's something along the lines of is English keeping you from learning other languages or something like that? And my answer is yes and no. It really depends, and it depends on your attitude. If someone, for example, say you go to Holland or you go to Sweden, you start speaking Dutch or you start speaking Swedish, and they get back to you and they speak English, then it's a little bit frustrating. That can happen. and also ourselves. Sometimes, for example, I was living with this Greek guy here, and most of the time we're speaking English, even if we could have spoken Greek. Antonios, I think Antoni is probably watching this. He told me that he will watch it. And we were speaking, I would say 60% English, 30% Greek, and 10% Swedish sometimes, rarely. But the answer, like, it was also my fault in the sense that sometimes I was tired, even if I speak Greek, I think fluently now, I was tired and I told myself, you know what, let's speak English. And also when we were like sitting with other people, we're not speaking Greek because other people will not understand. So there's a number of problems connected with the fact that English is the dominant language. And sometimes we are also a little bit, you know, lazy. Sometimes we're in a group and we have to speak English, and sometimes you know, certain peoples or populations speak English so well that it's difficult to use and practice their own language. Sweden or Holland they're two glaring examples of that. So in a way, yes. In another way, if you really are committed to learning and using your target language, you can just tell, please, I've seen this, you know, I've seen Richard in particular, Richard Simcott, the wonderful world famed polyglot, do this. Like, please, I want to practice your language. Let me speak your language. So it's also a common problem, but also your own personal attitude. It depends on a number of factors. So, Bastien Clément, he asks another question in French. Est-ce que pour améliorer ta prononciation, tu apprends tous les sons existants dans la langue ou tu répètes seulement les mots que tu entends? So, in order to improve your pronunciation, do you learn all the sounds existing in the language, or do you repeat just the words that you hear? Well, the answer, Bastien, is it's a little bit complex, but the bottom line is that I pay attention. First of all, I listen and read a lot at the very beginning. I pay attention to pronunciation and intonation, so the sound structure role, the sound structure of the language and of a sentence, not just the single parts, as kids do. Kids just listen to how like sentences sound. My brain starts picking up the patterns. I listen massively to the language and I pay attention. After a little bit, my brain starts picking up patterns. I speak, and then I pay attention to corrections that the tutors, especially tutors that I pay, higher tutors, give me in terms of pronunciation and intonation. And then I take it in stride. I use that feedback to further improve my pronunciation and intonation. One recent example in this regard is my friend Alex, who's Serbian, and we had a conversation in Serbian for 20 minutes, and he goes like, your Serbian sounds a little bit like Russian. And I went like, okay, well, it's a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, I didn't even know svicha. No, I didn't even realize I used to say svicha instead of zvija. So that's another sound, just an example. Zvija mise, like I like something. And, you know, I pay attention, but as much as I can pay all the attention in the world, that some things elude me because I'm an adult, and you know, I'm not a child. I'm not, my brain is not as plastic as that of a child, so I do miss stuff. But I think if you set your ego aside, then you realize that, you know, you're a human being and you make mistakes, and you take it in stride and you learn and you incorporate the feedback into your speaking patterns and pronunciation patterns, then you keep improving. So in a nutshell, to answer your question, it's very important to start from the very beginning, to pay attention, to be interested, to want to sound like a native speaker, to blend in psychologically, to belong to another tribe. The psychological aspect is really important. You have to pay attention. You have to listen massively to the language, either through reading or just listening. And then you can apply what you learn in terms of like sound structures. And it's really important to pay attention to the feedback that you get from native speakers that you can pay, or if you find someone that does it for free, even better. And then you keep improving upon the corrections and the feedback that you get along the way. So that's it in a nutshell. Let me see, there's a lot of stuff here. Yoga says, Alejandro, you keep repeating your comment. I'm sure Luca will see it when he gets a chance. Alejandro, been learning English and Russian for many years. My Russian has gotten much better over the years, but at the same time, it has interfered with my English and kind of ruined my English accent. Any advice? Well, my piece of advice is to make sure that you practice both languages regularly. When there's let's say, you a new language comes to the fore and you start practicing one language much more, listen to one language much more than the other one suffers. So my simple piece of advice, is to um, assess where you stand in terms of English and Russian, and how many hours, and tell yourself, how many hours do I spend doing this with English? How many hours do I spend doing this for Russian? And try to find a balance so that you're telling your brain that both Russian and English are important. Otherwise one becomes more prominent in your brain and starts interfering with the other. Uh, what is a nutshell? Different, interesting. Well, in a nutshell, it's an expression in English. I use it all the time. Draz says kids make pronunciation mistakes a lot, so they're not perfectly repeating machines that don't notice everything. They do eventually become perfectly competent, but it takes a lot of time. That's absolutely correct. And I am not even sure if they become perfectly competent. It depends on what you mean by perfectly competent. But the matter is that we tend to forget. We tend to say, "Oh, you learn like a kid, so you speak like a native speaker." Yes, but a lot of children make a lot of mistakes. I've seen it firsthand. For example, they make mistakes depending on the language. And they get corrections, and then they learn naturally. But we don't have to forget that we, as kids and also teenagers, we make a lot of mistakes, and we have the advantage and the luxury of having our parents and our peers correct and our teachers correcting us, and then we tend to forget that. And again, the difference between children and adults or adults is the fact that children, they have not unlearned yet how to communicate efficiently. Well, adults unfortunately have. We don't communicate effectively. We have unlearned how to do that, and we have to learn again how to do that properly, focusing on communication rather than performance. Remember, guys and girls, we all have gone to school, most of us, hopefully. But we have learned that we've learned to be competitive. We've learned to think, oh, he's done better than me. I have to perform better. I have to do well. I have to pronounce things well. I have to avoid mistakes. That's deleterious. That's not what you want to do when you want to speak a foreign language. It's a joy to communicate with other people, whether you make mistakes or not. And native speakers are very forgiving. They're going to love the fact you speak their own native language. And most of the things, of the fears we harbor, will depend on us, in our own mind. So Yoga Bliss Dance. She's a student. Our beloved student. Our school says it's a colloquialism of slang for in brief, like in a nutshell. It's like in brief. Thank you for the explanation. So we have still 30 minutes to go. Let me see here. I'm looking at the bottom. Let me see. Mega City Patrol. Well, kids have the ultimate in total immersion. That's exactly right. Fa asks, Luca, hai qualche prodotto per corso da poter acquistare per imparare l'inglese? Do you have any product which allows to learn English from scratch? Yes, we do. It's called the Bidirectional Translation. And again, you can find it here. I'm just going to link. That's a website where you can find bidirectional translation is for beginners. The Overcoming the Intermediate Plateau is for intermediate learners. And the bidirectional translation comes with subtitles in English, Italian, French, Spanish, Russian, and I even think Portuguese. So, and we also have the corresponding, like the same stuff, but in Spanish. So that's called a bidirectional translation. You can use it. It's a technique that you can use to learn pretty much any language, including and especially English. So let me see here. Let me go up. Now there's a lot of questions. So I'm sorry if I skipped some, but Carlos, what are the 4 languages you're taking now, Luca? Greek, Hungarian, Serbian, and tada, Turkish, which I'm going to start learning on the 1st of January, and we're setting up the 3-month challenge for in the school. So these are recurring 3-month challenges that we run. The first one starts for the bidirectional translation, so of course for beginners. It's going to start on the 1st of January. And since it's a public commitment, I'm very excited about it, because when this is public and I'm like the owner and the founder of the school, I have to set the example. So I will learn, like I did last year with, I think 2 years ago with Serbian, every single day for 90 days, and then we'll see what happens. So I'm going to use, I don't have it here, I have it in the other room, Turkish, Asimil Turkish. I'm going to be using Asimil Turkish for 90 days, covering the first 90 lessons. And then we'll see. Normally after 90 days, I get bored and I move on to the techniques in the other course, which is the course for low intermediate learners or intermediate learners. So let me see here on the iPad. So how would you include or incorporate downtime, time off in language study for beginners? I would, as a beginner, I think it's really important to spend at least 30 minutes doing some deliberate learning, deliberate time. Then you can anchor 10 minutes of just say listening to stuff that you've already gone through while sitting down. And you can anchor it with other habits that you have. Maybe you just walk the dog, and it can take 10 minutes to listen to stuff you've previously worked through and gone through. So there's always a way to incorporate language learning in simple mode, I would say, just especially listening when you run some errands or you do other things during the day. That's my answer. So I would spend 30 to 45 minutes sitting down and really trying to grasp and understand and figure out the patterns of the language by sitting down, comparing texts, reading and listening, and then use that knowledge. The more units you cover, the more you're going to learn, and you can use you can go back and, while running some errands, you can listen to the audio relative to the units of content that you've covered by sitting down. So you get the best of both worlds, so to speak. It's a little bit more complex than that, but I try to make it simple since I have to answer a lot of other questions. So let me see. Osvaldo says, how much could be the cost of being your student online? Well, I don't do coaching anymore. I have a lot of requests every day in terms of, can you be my coach? And the answer is, I love to, but I'm selling online courses right now. So what we're doing is that let's say I transitioned from private coach, because that was, I can help people, but not as many as now, because now I have an online school where I have courses and we have a community, and a lot of students are already here. I can see some of the names, and I believe that apart from the information that you get from the courses, which is valuable, I would say the biggest value is in the community. And more people are telling me, more and more students are writing to me privately and saying what really makes a difference is that to see other learners learn, to be in this, like sometimes we feel alone, we feel lonely, we have doubts, we have limiting beliefs about ourselves. But when we see that there's other people who have the same limiting beliefs, they're going through the same struggles or similar victories, it's beautiful to share, to celebrate the struggles, the victories, and also the limiting beliefs, and to realize, oh, I'm not alone. Oh, this guy or this girl thinks exactly the same, is going through exactly the same thing I'm going through. So that is the value, I think, of the community and of the online. If you guys are interested, again, you can go to my website, and there's courses there. You can take the courses, and you get you automatically become part of the school, and you get access to the entire community and everything that beyond that. So let me see. When you get to C2, it means you're able to watch videos with no captions. Well, fundamentally, yes, but there's always videos that are difficult to understand, even for native speakers. So, for example, if an American watches a movie in Scottish, I'm pretty sure they're going to find it difficult to understand everything, like Train Spotting. I don't know if you ever heard of Train Spotting. And so I always use subtitles anyway, regardless. Deco6, how do you manage learning so many languages at once? As you mentioned, you're now learning 4 languages. How do you use or repeat other languages you speak or used to learn in the past? So this is a very interesting question. And I divide my language learning, or the languages that I have under my belt, into 2 categories. You have, let's say, System 1 and System 2. System 1 is the languages that I speak fluently. Let's say I am a language user, so I have a level that is higher, or like B2 or higher. And this allows me to basically use the language, or listen to, I don't know, the news as a native speaker would. And then I have the languages that I'm still learning actively. So I have around, let's say, 8 or 9 languages that for which I have a level that allows me to just use these languages in everyday life. And because of various life circumstances, I can use at least, let's say, between 5, unfortunate days, 5. If the day is pretty lucky and it's pretty productive language-wise, I can use 10. So I use these 10, and then these other 4, I spend around 30 minutes each doing things that, for example, for Greek, I listen when I go running or I do workout. Then when I take a shower, I have my AirPods, and when I have to wash my hair, I listen to 30 minutes of Greek. That's 30 minutes of one language. Then I sit down first thing in the morning after after my morning routine, and I do Turkish. So I always find ways to squeeze in two languages, 1, 2, 3 languages a day, apart from the languages that I use in real life, that I use in my everyday life. Sorry. So again, Italian, French, Spanish, Polish. What else? Italian, English, French, Spanish, German, Polish, Russian, not that much these days, but let's say six of these languages. I either watch the news, or I talk to colleagues within the school, or I write to people, to students in the school, or I read magazines. I always find ways of using these languages because they've become part of my life. So I'm not sitting down to learn, say, Greek. I'm just using Greek in my everyday life. So that's a different mind. It's a different category. It's a different way of learning. You're still learning, but you're using more than learning. I'm talking about Greek. But for Turkish, I have to sit down and I have to learn. So starting from the 1st of January, I will sit down and I will learn Turkish for an hour a day. That's what I have to do with a newborn. Then you have teenagers, the rebellious teenagers like Serbian or Hungarian, especially Serbian. I think I have an A2, A2 B1. That's another language that requires me sitting down and doing stuff. And the other languages, I can just use them. Even Hungarian, I just started watching Friderico's podcast, it's called. It's stuff that we talk about geopolitics. They talk about religion, politics. I love it. It has subtitles. I can watch it in subtitles in Hungarian or English. So again, when you start getting better and better with the language, it's less and less exhausting to engage in activities that you find cool, and it doesn't feel like you're learning. It feels like you're just just enjoying something, consuming something for the joy and sake of consuming that stuff in your target language. So Teresa goes, Lucas, are you alive? Who knew? Teresa, yes, I'm live. Teresa is another wonderful student within the Language Learning Academy, and she participates in all our Zoom chats. I think, Teresa, you haven't missed one since you've joined the school, both in English and in Spanish. And I do this live once a month, more or less. The next one is probably going to be in Italian. So I've done most of them in English. I've done a couple in Spanish. I think the next one is going to be in Italian. Correct. Yes, that is, I know, because we speak every month. By the way, this is another feature that we have, is we have Zoom chats with me. Normally there's, I think, between 20 and 30 students for the English, for the one in English. And then we have for Spanish, normally 5 to 10. And they can talk to me directly. We always have wonderful conversations, and we talk about language learning. Again, we share struggles, victories, and it's always very refreshing and very empowering to talk to the students of the school. Wann auf Deutsch? Carlos asks. Ich weiß es nicht. I don't know, Carlos, but I might make one auf Deutsch auch, also in German. But again, first English, Spanish, Italian, French, and then German, and then maybe auf Russisch, по-русски тоже. I'd like to make it in every language that I know. Okay, so we are approaching the end. I'd say we have 20 more minutes. Globus asks, are you excited about learning Turkish? Yes, I am excited about learning Turkish. I love to learn. Again, I know it's a difficult language, but I'm going to try my best to learn every day. And I think that if you learn every day and you're passionate about what you do, then the magic will happen sooner or later. I've heard that Turkish is pretty tough, but we'll see. The interesting thing about Turkish is that the syntax is very similar to Japanese, and Japanese was my, let's say, bestia nera, we say in Italian, it was a tough nut to crack. But now I know how to tackle this problem of a different syntax. So using the bidirectional translation. So we'll see what that gives. What do you think of Fluent U? I have no clue, Anita, because I've never used it. So that's my answer. I don't know if you can give it a try if you like it. I don't know if you guys have used Fluent U. There's a lot of apps out there that are interesting, but I always say that if you find language learning material that has interesting content, print it or buy something that you can, touch, you can hold, you can leaf through, and you can even smell, because that's contact to the real world. We need contact with the real world, with stuff, real life objects, and not just platforms. Again, I don't know if Fluent U is a platform or an app. I've heard about this before, but I've never gotten to it. But again, you can use it if you want, but it's always in conjunction with something else. Do you use Asimo in Italian? Late Ant asks. Yes, possibly. If it's in Italian, use it in Italian. But if I find it in other languages, like an example, the example before, Hungarian with ease, you couldn't find it in Italian, I had to use English, and that's fine. For some Asimo versions, I have French. Swedish, it was in French. I think Dutch was in French as well. So you have to make do, as they say. So Tontana, do you think it's useful to use always subtitles, subs on listening comprehension, like listening French with French subtitles? I again, if you listen to something and you don't understand it, and when you watch it or listen to it, and you have lyrics, you have subtitles, you have a transcript that allows you to understand what you listen to, well, that's a blessing, and you should use that. Alejandro says, it's Luca, not Lucas. Yes, that's correct. It's interesting anecdote in French. When they sent me an email, it was always wrong. And I never got emails because they say Luca, right? And they thought it was Luca, Lucas. But no, it's not Luca with S. It's Luca sans S, without S. It's a funny thing. When I used to live in France, it happened all the time. Jackson, what is the best way to learn Cyrillic language for an A1 learner? I'm trying to learn Ukrainian. Well, my suggestion, Jackson, this is another suggestion what we have. There's the entire demonstration. I demonstrate how to do this in one of the demo videos in the bidirectional translation course, is to print a layout. So you just can Google Cyrillic Ukrainian or Cyrillic Russian, and you can find a layout, right, very easily if you click on Google Images, and then you just print it. You have it next to you. You download the keyboard, or you configure the keyboard on your computer, and then you have a great time and you have fun typing words that you find in your language learning material, typing words by using the new configuration that you can use. You can easily set up on your computer, and you have a physical layout just in front of you. You can even buy some stuff that you can apply directly on your keyboard, and then you learn by sheer practice. And it's fun. I can tell you it's fun. I used this method to learn a lot of languages without a Latin script, and everything is also included in the bidirectional translation course. Let's see. Do you mix the languages by mistake? Like you use Italian words when speaking Spanish. The thing that happens a lot is that when I try to speak Italian, English, English words or words in English come to the fore in my head, because English is the language I use the most. Italian is still my native language, but English is a language I speak more fluently now especially when it comes to talking about language learning, because I do it all the time. So it's a matter of using, right? The more you use a language, the more fluent you become, even if not necessarily more knowledgeable, in the sense Italian is still my native language. But English, I think, is definitely the language that I speak the most fluently now, because of the sheer amount of time, quantity of time that I spend using English in all its forms: writing, speaking, listening, etc. Nick, how do you use ChatGPT for language acquisition? The answer is I'm not using ChatGPT for language acquisition. I'm still using the what I consider the best way of learning languages, which is just listening and reading. So I'm not creating stuff. I'm not asking ChatGPT to create stuff for me. I'm still using the amount. We have so much stuff nowadays available without using ChatGPT that I don't think I need ChatGPT for now. I would use ChatGPT, or I would use artificial intelligence tools when it comes to speaking. I would like to imagine a tutor who corrects me and who talks to me, right? That would be cool, because he can correct me and he can give me feedback, and I don't have to feel the stress of talking to a human being who's just like, hey, you've made this mistake and this mistake. Again, going back to what I was saying before, still in our head, the stuff, because most native speakers are very forgiving of our mistakes, but still I would use it that way, not so much for consuming content. What are you doing for New Year's Eve? I'm gonna have a bunch of friends coming here and we're gonna party on my rooftop for a little bit. It's gonna rain though, so I guess that I don't know if we're gonna party on the rooftop, but we're gonna party here. Party, I mean, just like partying is just having a nice time, having a great time here without getting drunk or too worse. I'm too old for that. So let's see. Now that you said you speak English more from learning languages, do you feel your native language is worsening, forgetting words, etc.? I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's worsening. I would say that when it comes to fluency, it's worsening in the sense that I cannot express myself as I did before, but this is just a matter of lack of practice, in the sense that if I was asked, for example, to give a conference in Italian, speaking about language learning, I would say that it would be okay. It would not be difficult, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of words a lot of English words would come to the fore, will come to my mind when trying to speak English. And so I have two options: either to insert English words in my Italian speech, which is not it's frowned upon in Italy, and not only in Italy, depending on the circumstance and the context, or I just should try to make an effort and try to use just Italian words, or that's going to be difficult. So any language, including yours, can get worse if you don't use it. That's the bottom line, So in my case, Italian, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's getting worse, but again, when I speak Italian, a lot of English words come to my mind, and abbonato a Limes. Tu sei abbonato, io ancora no. So someone's got a subscription to Limes. It's a wonderful magazine about geopolitics. I love it. This is, if you're learning Italian, or you've been learning Italian for quite a while, and you want very high, like this is the language that is, that they use for in these magazines, is very high level, very elegant, very nice. So let's see. Let me go back. I'm going to answer a couple of more questions, and then we're gonna close it. Teresa says, "Do you announce this live show anywhere?" I'm going up. I think I announced it on YouTube and on my social media, Teresa, but I didn't announce it in the school. Maybe I can change that if you're interested. You missed that, but there's a lot of them. You can rewatch the recordings. So let me see. Daran, this name is difficult. Daran Diraran Rai Kumar, I guess. Where will this 3-month language course take us? Well, this bidirectional translation takes you to a level where you have a very solid understanding of the language. So in 3 months, you follow, for example, you apply this bidirectional translation to this. Just an example, if you're learning Hungarian to one piece of content, you have a very good understanding of the language, and then you have to use other techniques in order to expand it, to acquire it. That's always the main point. When people talk about the bidirectional translation, I've recently seen a forum that they talk about that, me and the translation. I think there's a big misunderstanding when it comes to this technique. This technique is not in order to speak fluently. This is a technique in order to dissect and understand the structure of a given language. It gives you the foundation that is going to propel you towards the acquisition of the language. So in other words, when you want to learn any language, you first have to understand it. People are obsessed with memorizing things. How can I memorize words? How can I memorize vocabulary, especially as a beginner? Forget about memorizing and focus on understanding. The bidirectional translation method has the merit, I think, that allows you, through translation, to understand how a language works. So understand the structure, the grammar, the pronunciation, etc., in an unconscious way, because conscious and deliberate at the same time. So in order of language levels, I would say it doesn't take you to a B1 or B2. It takes you to an A2. But that is I think the biggest advantages is once you've done that, then you can start using other techniques like podcasts. You can download podcasts, listen and read, etc. And it facilitates the task of acquiring language by consuming content that is at a higher level. That's the main point. So Farouk says, how many languages a college student can learn every day? Well, it depends on the college student. I guess there's a limit. I would always say 1 language is best, 2 languages if you have some time, 3 languages if you're crazy, and 4 languages if you're completely crazy like me. So any alternative to Asimil, 5-star paying, says, they don't have the Polish one in my language. It's a good question. I don't have it here. I would say for Polish, I would rather use real life. What was it again? Real Polish. I would just subscribe to realpolish.pl and subscribe to his VIP thing, and you will get anything you need. Just amazing. Just amazing. Real Polish, what he offers nowadays from the beginning. We have our friend Alex here. How many languages will you speak at your party? Alex is my colleague. So we've been doing a lot of stuff, including writing the book together. He's helped me write the book. He's a wonderful person. He's a wonderful guy, and he always asks very interesting questions. How many languages will you speak at your party? I think just Italian, and we have an Australian girl, my friend Kelly. So I think Italian and English, and that's enough. Again, four of my friends coming here, 4 or 5. Again, few people, because when I had 100 people at my apartment, that was a complete mess, and I don't want that to happen again. And then we have COVID. So let me see. How do you stay motivated when learning a language that is too distant from any language you speak? I'm struggling with Korean, Wallace and Guimaraes says. It's a very interesting question. And the more distant the language, the more effort you have to put in, and it can get discouraging. My simple answer is I don't have a recipe for everybody, but I would just say that one thing, and I'm telling you this because recently I've been thinking about this, especially with Serbian. I was feeling this friction. I was telling myself, do I want to continue learning Serbian? And I told myself, yes. But I have to find something that I'm excited about. It can be a TV show, it could be a girlfriend, a YouTube video, or a YouTube series, or a YouTube channel that is really interesting. And so in that regard, I think you have to find a way to move from just sitting down, learning, or trying to learn to memorize words, etc., to something that excites you. It could be going to Korea. The mere idea of going to Korea, or watch a documentary about Korea, or reading a book about Korean culture, whatever it is, but you have to find a new way of, sparkling this interest again. So it's frustrating. I understand. It takes a long time, but if you find creative ways to stay motivated, you have to learn to understand what motivates you, what excites you, makes you tick, what compels you. That's the key. What resources do you use for Greek? Late and says, interesting. I used Asimil Greek first, and then I used Hellenic. It was podcast from Hellenic University, completely free. You can find them online. And then I used Pod 101, Greek Pod 101. And then I started using Easy Greek, Super Easy Greek. And by the way, Dimitri and Marilena, the founders, they are coming here in 10 days. They're going to stay in my place. I'm super excited because they're super cool. I met them in Greece. So 5 more minutes. Let me see. You have to come to Serbia to find a Serbian girlfriend, Branka says. That's true. That's absolutely true. That's what our friend Alex says all the time. I have to get married with a Serbian girl. If there's any Serbian girl who's interested, I'm here. I'm kidding, of course. What else? Okay, guys. So thank you very much. I think we're coming to a close. Again, just wanted to tell you that we have um, a new free ebook, completely free, and I'm just gonna write this again here. So there we go. We have this ebook is pretty long. It comes with in EPUB version format, so you can put it on your Kindle. It's in PDF and it comes as an audiobook. I recorded this in a recording studio, so there's 1 hour, 90 minutes of me talking and reading the book. You can read it, you can listen and read at the same time if you're learning English and if you want to improve it, or you can do anything with it. And so I think you're going to like it. There's a lot of good stuff and it's completely free. All you need to do is to sign up and download the package and enjoy. Someone asks a couple of, last questions. Someone asked if I have Nassim Taleb. I have all his books, but not here. I have it in the other library. Nassim Taleb is the man. How many, Farouk says, how many hours do you spend with every language on a daily basis? Is really difficult to quantify for system 1 and system 2, the two systems I talked about. But in a nutshell, I spend all my day using languages. So I quantify just the languages I'm learning actively. So I would say between 1 and 2 hours. And for the rest, I just use all the languages I know, or at least between 6 and 10 every day. So I don't count it anymore. Ignacio, Luca, ¿cuál ha sido el idioma más fácil para ti? What was the easiest language to learn? I would say Portuguese after learning after learning Spanish. That was the easiest language to learn because it's pretty much the same language, but the pronunciation is a little bit different. Good to go too. Do you think 30 minutes a day is enough for learning a language? It depends on what you mean by enough, in the sense that it depends on what you want to do. If you want to speak a language fluently, then with 30 minutes a day, it's going to take you, say, more time. So I would say that 30 minutes a day is great to learn regularly. So sit down, 30 minutes is great. You can squeeze in 30 minutes every day, but it's going to take you a long time to learn a language fluently, especially if the language is different from the language, very distant from the language, from your own native language, or languages you have under your belt. So frequency and intensity. You have to learn every day. You have to add in intensity if you want to get there faster. You have to think of it this way. You have to cover a path, right? And if you walk, then you cover that path in a certain amount of time. If you run, you cover that path in less time. So it really depends on what your goal is. If you have a very specific goal of, say, learning to speak a language fluently, to reach conversational fluency in, say, 2 years, because let's say you're learning Spanish and you're going to move to Mexico, then I would say that at the very least 1 hour a day is the bare minimum. I would say 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour a day is the bare minimum to make tangible progress within a relatively reasonable amount of time. 30 minutes is great, but it's great. It's better than zero. It's better than 15 minutes or 0 or 1 minute a day, but I think it's going to take you a long time. And the problem is that if the path stretches for too long, then you get discouraged and dispirited. So that's my answer. Thank you, Mr. Lamparello. Please send us an autographed picture at your earliest convenience. I will do that, Alex, of course. I will send you a picture. So let's see here. Anch'io sono Bengalese. I'm learn Bengali. Luca, there are very many Bengali people in Italy. That's absolutely true. I have met a lot of them here. 5 more minutes, just because I like this. I love answering to your questions. Luca, buenas tardes. ¿Crees que es importante tener una buena referencia de fonética y ortografía? La pronunciación inglesa me resulta arbitraria. So he's asking if it's important to have some reference, maybe for learning pronunciation. Yes. Let me see if I have it here. Yes, I do. So this is for students as well as for learners, for teachers. I would say this is the best book I found as a teacher when I was teaching phonetics, especially American English phonetics. This is a great book. I don't know if it's visible. It's called Practical Phonetics and Phonology. It's a fantastic book for students. It's a fantastic book for teachers. And because it tackles... Oh, look what I found here. It tackles. I found I hadn't seen this in a long time. This is when I got 100,000 subscribers. Because it tackles intonation as well, and intonation is a really important part of the language. There's a lot of dust here, you can see, because I haven't used it in a long time. Practical phonetics and phonology, whether you're a student, whether you're a teacher of English and you want to learn more. Sorry, let me see this again. Routledge. Let me show you. This is Routledge English Language Introductions. You should be able to see this. There it is. Teresa asks, is this live chat recorded? Yes, Teresa. She always asks me after after our chat on Zoom if I got some books. She's always very curious about all the resources, and the answer is yes. It's gonna be live. It's gonna be on YouTube as soon as this is finished. The event, the live, I think it's gonna be there as well. It depends on the settings. I think I set it up so that it shows, but I'm not 100% sure. It should appear. So, guys, I think that's it. To answer your question, the live chat is recording, meaning that when you're gonna watch this again, you're gonna see the chat. You're gonna see the chat as we're seeing it now. But it really depends on my settings. I don't remember if I put it if I recorded it. If I'm recording it the right way, I hope so. Cross your fingers. Otherwise, you can just listen to this recording. Mustaregis, are you still going to start learning Turkish on January 2024? Yes. And we have the 3-month challenge starting on the 1st of January. We have the entire 3-month challenge already set up. There's, I think, 50 people participating, 50 students. So that's exciting within the school, language learning school. And I'm very excited about learning Turkish in January 2024 and in 2024 in general. So I see there's many other questions. As I said at the beginning of this recording, what I normally do is that I go through the live chat again, and these questions are great, and they're really also useful for me to come up with ideas for new YouTube videos. Thank you for your time, for the wonderful questions that you always ask, for the enthusiasm. I wish you all a fantastic 2024. And the other thing that I wanted to tell you again is that we have this new book. We put in a lot of time. It's a gift. It's a free gift that we hope is going to propel your language learning in 2024. You can find it on my website. All you need to do is to sign up to the newsletter. If you have already signed up to the newsletter, so you're already a member of the newsletter, we're going to send this in a couple of days at the beginning of the year. So everybody's, whether you subscribe or not, they're going to get it. But if you subscribe now, there's more gifts coming your way in January 2024. So again, here is the website and the reference to the audiobook. I think that's it, guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all the amazing questions again. And sorry if I skipped some of the questions, but I cannot answer anybody within the 90-minute mark, but I try to do my best. And it's always nice to talk to you, to see your wonderful questions and your enthusiasm for language learning. Have a fantastic day, night, evening, wherever you find yourself on the globe. And I wish you a very fruitful and successful 2024 when it comes to learning languages and when it comes to life in general. The next chat, is probably in a month, but it really depends on a number of things. It's probably going to be in Italian. So I want to experiment with these chats. And as I know that English is the most international language, but I would like to make these also in Italian, French, Spanish, German, Russian, and what have you. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic evening, day, and I'll see you in 2024. Ciao, ciao.